Hello everybody and welcome to my channel Sunflower Learns to Sew. In today's video we have a fun, exciting new yarn to review. The Loops and Thread Demi Purl yarn. This yarn is going to be available September 2nd with 30 different shades. So my Micheals had a few shades available, about 6 or 8. I'll include a little video showing the shades that my Micheals had. So I went ahead and grabbed Jade Sheen and Cinnamon Stick. So these are the yarns that we're going to be working with today for our review. So a little bit more about this yarn. Like I said, there's going to be 30 different shades and they look very beautiful. They are available to look at on the website. You cannot order them yet, but you can look at all the fun different colors that they have. So next, let's go over yardage. So this has 152 yards for the 250 grams. So they are keeping up with the 250 that Sweet Snuggle Light and Sweet Snuggles has. So they both have 250 and so does this. But the yardage is what interested me. So this has 152 yards, where Sweet Snuggle or Chenille Home, that has now been discontinued, has 109 yards for the 250 grams, but Sweet Snuggle Light has 218. So this is right in between Sweet Snuggle and Sweet Snuggle Light, and that makes sense because thickness-wise, it is also in between. It is thinner than Sweet Snuggle, but thicker than Sweet Snuggle Light. So this is what it looks like. Again, 250 grams. Now what's interesting to me is the hook recommendation. When I flip the camera, I'll show you a closer look at it. But it recommends a 6.5 millimeter hook. Now I find that interesting because Sweet Snuggle Light recommends an 8 millimeter hook. Now I wonder if this is more like directed towards amigurumiists, like people who do amigurumi, that to use a tighter hook to get the tighter work, because amigurumi is known for being tight. Well, an 8 millimeter hook for Sweet Snuggle Light would be more for like blankets when you're doing double crochet. So I'm interested if that hook size has to do with the fact that maybe this yarn is going to be more towards amigurumi. So I found that very interesting. I really like the texture of it. They did have the black shade at my store and the texture was just a little off, but that happens. Every once in a while there's a yarn that just doesn't feel right, but Jade Sheen and Cinnamon Stick feel amazing, but the black did not. Just a little heads up. I don't know if that's something to do with the dye or that was just the two that were available in my Micheals. Again, it's not going to be coming out until September 2nd, so maybe the new blacks will be a lot better quality. So I'm so excited to get into this yarn with you guys. Here is the yarn. So we can see close up Jade Sheen, like I said. It was manufactured in April. Scan here for free patterns. This is the blanket that they're going to have on all of the skeins, it looks like. It's called Demi Purl. It is a polyester, and like I said, 152 yards for the 250 grams. And here is like what I said. Super bulky, 6.5. So, like I was mentioning, the Sweet Snuggle Light recommends an 8 millimeter hook, and I have my little Sweet Snuggle Light here that does recommend an 8 millimeter hook, and this was actually manufactured also in April, so these were both made around the same time. My first impressions of the yarn is that it's very soft. I like the thickness. It is thicker than Sweet Snuggle Light, like I said. I would say it's also thicker than Bernard Baby Blanket or Bernard Blanket yarn. It's a very interesting, thicker yarn. I'm very curious. I haven't tried a lot of like Premier yarns except for the Premier Perfect Chunky. And I wonder if this is more closer to their Perfect Plush or the Perfect XL. But, because it's definitely smaller than Sweet Snuggles, but thicker than Sweet Snuggle Light. I'm going to try to do a little comparison for you guys, but can you see the difference? Can you see how much more thicker this is compared to this? Like, there's a big difference in thickness. I like this a lot better. We'll see how it works up and how easy it is to do like a magic circle and all of that. So I got a 6.5 millimeter hook, as that's what it recommends. We'll see if I need to size down a hook size or not. So it did not close the magic circle. But, nope. Never mind. If it's just a little bit more force. I'm curious if this yarn will shed less than Sweet Snuggle Light or Sweet Snuggle. I just have a feeling that this yarn might be a little bit better quality in like shedding way. I don't know, I just have a feeling it will shed a little less, but maybe that's just me thinking that, but we'll see. And so I'm gonna try a bat, which I really don't have the highest hopes for, but okay, I think that a green bat with orange accents would be fun, but I'm more thinking about like the cinnamon stick, the green accents. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. So I'm going to be starting so that we're gonna not work in a magic circle, but this does do the magic circle, and it frogged perfectly fine. There is a little divot, so this one, when you do frog it, if you frog it too many times, it will lose its strength, but it didn't like completely break apart, and you can't see the thread in the middle, which sometimes happens with like Sweet Snuggle or Sweet Snuggle Light, so that is good. So I'm using a 6.5 that they say to use, and we'll see how well that works. So far, it's easy to work with. I'm just trying to get used to how thick it is. It's, like I said, it is thicker than Sweet Snuggle Light. So I'm using the 6.5, but there is just some holes in it, and I don't really like that. When it comes to Sweet Snuggle, the bigger one, I use a 7mm hook, and for Sweet Snuggle Light, 5mm. So a 6mm would be right in between versus the 6.5. So I'm going to switch to my 6mm frills crochet hook, and I think that would be a little bit better because there is just a little bit of holes, and this is when it's working in rows, not rounds, and I'm worried when I go stuff it, it will have an issue. But so far it's frogging quite well, and I feel like it's, of course when you frog yarn it's gonna lose a little bit of shape, but it's not like, you see how nice it's frogging? Like, I feel like it hasn't lost complete shape. Of course it's not as soft as the unfrogged yarn, but definitely think you can get away with frogging this yarn and using it. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the 6mm, and then we'll see how it works up. I'm really liking this yarn. I think this yarn is going to be a good yarn. I'm going to switch the camera so you can kind of see my hands crocheting, but so far I think it's a thumbs up. We'll see when it comes to the sewing of it though, if it sheds a lot, breaks, and all that. So I just cut my yarn, and I wanted to compare it. So this is my little chenille home skein, and you can see as it breaks, it has a thread in between. And then I have my Sweet Snuggle Light skein of yarn, which also has the white thread in the inside. Now when it comes to this yarn, it just doesn't seem that it is manufactured or made the same way with like the white thread inside. I think this actually might be made differently. Don't quote me, I might be wrong, and it might be made the same, but I feel like it's made differently. I feel like it's made differently, and there's not. Like, I feel like there might be, but it doesn't feel like, when it flattens, I don't feel like there's a white thread running through it. And some stuff does come off, but not like a lot. But at the end. Like I'm trying to peel back and see, but I just don't think that there is. I think that this might just be made a little differently, which, interesting. I want to mention though, it is still a very big yarn, and even though I sized down to a 6mm hook, this is going to be my ear. It's going to be huge, so just keep in mind, even though this yarn is nice, it is still a very thick and large yarn. Even though it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't look that thick, it makes some big pieces, so I'm curious how large my bat is going to come out then. Back after finish crocheting and stuffing all of the pieces, so now it is time to assemble our little crochet, and I wanted to do this together so we can see how sewable the yarn is, if it's easy to sew with or if it's very difficult to sew with. So first up, it is time to sew the ears. Look how large they came out, like the size of my head. So time to sew them on, and then we can see how easily it is to sew or not to sew them. I think I'm gonna sew the ears in this camera view, and then I'll flip it around for you guys to see it when we sew the other body parts, so you can get an idea. So far I went through the needle easily, no issue there. Mostly the issue is like with shedding and breaking when you sew, so we'll see how that comes out. Okay, so far so good. Hasn't broke, hasn't shed. So far I think this yarn is sew approved, but let's keep sewing it. Ignore the plastic on the eyes, it's just to keep them safe, as the project's not finished and I don't want them to get scratched while I sew accidentally. So let's see how it is sewing. Got my needle. Okay, have the ear sewn on. Now I'm going to try to do a little knot and see if I cut it or anything, if it's gonna cause problems. Let's just try. Just gonna pull that up there. Oops. that worked out perfectly good. Very happy with how that came out. Now, let's continue sewing the rest of the body and see how that works out. Okay, so I've officially finished our little bat, little wings and all. Just absolutely adorable. Came out so cute. I was a little bit hesitant on the color palette, but it's giving me like caramel apple, like a green apple with caramel on it. So I think it came out adorable. So now on to my opinions and thoughts on the yarn. Also, I do have this much of the cinnamon stick and then a lot of the jade sheen left. So my thoughts and opinions on this yarn. First of all, when it came to sewing, it was perfect. It was so easy. I have about 4 little like sheds only of it, so it barely sheds. It sews very easily. There is no issue. You can definitely sew this yarn. I know when it comes to like Sweet Snuggle Light or Sweet Snuggles, a lot of people use like cotton or acrylic to put their pieces on when they're sewing instead of using the actual yarn. I feel like with this yarn, you don't have to do that. It sews. Another plus about it is it's going to have 30 colors, and just look how beautiful this green is. It is gorgeous. It's going to be vivid green. The only thing I'm sad about, there's not going to be that many purples, so that's a little disappointing, but 30 colors is a lot of colors. Very happy about that. And I think when it comes to size, I was like a little thinking about it. I think this is the perfect size that Micheals doesn't have currently, because they recently came out with the Posh Pearl and Cozy Cub yarn, and those are 2 yarns that are smaller than Sweet Snuggles Light in thickness, and then it goes Sweet Snuggles Light and then Sweet Snuggles. So this is right in between. So I think it's quite perfect when it comes down to it. Like, just look how cute it is. It's quite a little bit of a big bat, a little bit bigger than I was expecting, but I think that's perfect if you want a bigger project than when you use Sweet Snuggle Light, but not as big as Sweet Snuggles. I think this is a perfect medium. It's right in between. It's so soft to work with. I really love it. And the Sweet Snuggle Light yarns recently that have been coming to my store have not been the best quality. They've still been rough. They've still been the quality from last year, even though they said they've been manufactured this year. So this yarn feels so much softer, so much better. I think I would prefer to use this yarn way much more than Sweet Snuggle Light currently. It's so cute. It's going to have so many more colors than Sweet Snuggle Light now. And it's adorable. I'm very happy with it. Like, look how cute it is. So my thoughts and opinions, I definitely recommend this yarn. You should definitely try it out on September 2nd when it comes out. I definitely think I might be getting a few more colors of this yarn. I hope you guys enjoyed today's review. If you liked the video, hit the like button and subscribe.